Ifeoma was the epitome of happiness. At 28, she was living the life she had always dreamed of. Growing up in the lively town of Nsaka, she had everything going for her: a flourishing career as a fashion designer, a loving fiancé, Ojo, who adored her, and her close-knit family, especially her younger sister, Adaora, whom she had practically raised after their mother passed away. The bond between Ifeoma and Adaora was special. Ifeoma had always been like a mother to Adaora, guiding her through life's challenges. Adaora, in turn, looked up to Ifeoma with deep admiration and love. The sisters shared everything: secrets, dreams, and even the heartbreaks that life occasionally threw their way. When Ojo entered Ifeoma's life, it was as though all the pieces of her puzzle had finally come together. He was kind, supportive, and genuinely in love with her. He often spoke of how he couldn't wait to spend the rest of his life with her, and Ifeoma felt the same. Their wedding was just a few weeks away when preparations were in full swing. The entire town buzzed with excitement. Nsaka was a place where everyone knew each other, and Ifeoma's wedding was the event of the year. Adaora, ever the supportive sister, threw herself into the preparations, helping Ifeoma choose her dress, plan the guest list, and even coordinating with the caterers. Everything was falling into place, and Ifeoma couldn't have been happier. As the wedding day approached, Ifeoma noticed subtle changes in Adaora's behavior. Adaora seemed distant, often lost in thought, and sometimes, Ifeoma caught her sister looking at Ojo with a strange expression. But Ifeoma brushed it off as pre-wedding nerves. After all, planning a wedding was stressful, and she assumed Adaora was simply overwhelmed. Ojo, too, seemed different. He was more reserved, not as enthusiastic about the wedding as he had been. Ifeoma asked him several times if everything was all right, but he always reassured her that he was just tired from work. The wedding preparations were demanding, and Ifeoma reasoned that it was natural for Ojo to be a little stressed. Despite these small signs, Ifeoma remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing right under her nose. She was too wrapped up in the excitement of her upcoming nuptials, too blinded by love and trust to see the truth. Finally, the wedding day arrived. The church was decorated beautifully, the guests were seated, and everything was set for what should have been the happiest day of Ifeoma's life. As Ifeoma got dressed in her bridal suite, she felt a strange mix of excitement and anxiety. Her heart raced, but she told herself it was just wedding jitters. Adaora helped her with the final touches, but there was an unease in Adaora's eyes that Ifeoma couldn't quite understand. "Are you okay?" Ifeoma asked, adjusting her veil. Adaora forced a smile. "I'm fine, just a little tired." Ifeoma nodded, accepting the answer without pressing further. She was too focused on the day ahead. The ceremony began, and Ifeoma walked down the aisle, her heart full of love and hope. Ojo was waiting for her at the altar, but as she approached, she noticed the tension in his posture. Something was off. As the priest began the ceremony, Ojo's hands trembled. Ifeoma squeezed his hand, trying to reassure him, but it only seemed to make him more nervous. When it was time to exchange vows, Ojo hesitated. His face paled, and he seemed to be struggling with something deep inside. "Ifeoma," he began, his voice shaky. I can't do this." The church fell silent. Ifeoma stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" she whispered, her heart pounding. Ojo swallowed hard, his eyes filling with tears. "I'm in love with Adaora," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "And she's pregnant with my child." The words hit Ifeoma like a sledgehammer. The world around her blurred as she tried to comprehend what Ojo had just said. The gasps from the congregation, the cries from her mother, and the shocked expressions on everyone's faces only added to the chaos in her mind. Adaora's face was ashen, her eyes wide with fear and guilt. She took a step back, as if trying to distance herself from the truth, but it was too late. The damage was done. Ifeoma's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the ground, her beautiful wedding dress no longer a symbol of happiness but a reminder of the worst betrayal of her life. After the disastrous wedding day, Ifeoma fell into a deep depression. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and refused to leave her room. The pain of betrayal was unbearable. How could the two people she loved the most do this to her? How could her sister, her own blood, betray her in such a way? The entire town of Nsaka was abuzz with gossip, and everywhere Ifeoma went, she felt the weight of their pity and judgment. Adaora, consumed with guilt, stayed away, unable to face Ifeoma. Ojo tried to reach out to her, but Ifeoma refused to see him. She wanted nothing to do with him or Adaora. They had destroyed her life, and she needed time to heal. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Ifeoma began to emerge from her shell. She realized that she couldn't stay locked away forever. She had a life to live, then she needed to find a way to move forward. But the question was, how? Ifeoma decided to leave Nsaka for a while, to get away from the constant reminders of her broken engagement. She moved to Enugu, where she had friends and could start fresh. She threw herself into her work, using fashion design as an outlet for her pain. Her designs took on a new depth, reflecting the emotions she was struggling to process. Her clients noticed the change, and soon, her work became even more sought after. Ifeoma's reputation as a talented designer grew, and with it, so did her confidence. But no matter how busy she kept herself, the pain of betrayal lingered. She missed her family, missed the closeness she once had with Adaora, but the thought of seeing her sister again was too much to bear. One day, after months of silence, Ifeoma received a letter from Adaora. It was a simple note filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness. Adaora confessed that she had made a terrible mistake, that she had been blinded by her feelings for Ojo and hadn't considered the consequences. She begged Ifeoma to come back, to talk to her, to try and mend the broken bond between them. Ifeoma read the letter over and over again, her heart torn. She wanted to forgive Adaora, but the wound was still too fresh. However, she knew that holding on to this pain would only continue to hurt her. She needed to find a way to forgive, if only for her own peace of mind. After much contemplation, Ifeoma decided it was time to face her past. She returned to Nsaka, to the house where she and Adaora had grown up. The memories of their childhood were everywhere, making the confrontation even more painful. Adaora was waiting for her, visibly nervous, her eyes red from crying. Ojo was there too, standing beside Adaora, looking remorseful and broken. Ifeoma, Adaora began, her voice trembling. I don't even know where to start. I've made so many mistakes, and I know I've hurt you in ways I can't even begin to apologize for. But I'm begging you, please find it in your heart to forgive me. Ifeoma looked at her sister, the woman she had once loved and trusted more than anyone in the world. The pain was still there, but so was the love. She knew she couldn't carry this burden of anger and resentment forever. Adaora, Ifeoma said, her voice steady but filled with emotion, you were my sister. I trusted you with everything, and you broke that trust. You hurt me in ways I never thought possible. But I can't live my life holding on to this pain. I'm not ready to forgive you yet, but I'm willing to try. Adaora burst into tears, rushing to embrace Ifeoma. The sisters held each other tightly, both crying for the relationship they had lost and for the one they hoped to rebuild. Ojo, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. Ifeoma, I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm truly sorry. I was weak, and I made a terrible mistake. I hope that one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me, too. Ifeoma looked at Ojo, the man she had once dreamed of spending her life with. The love she once felt for him was gone, replaced by a calm acceptance. Ojo, I forgive you, she said softly. But I can't forget what happened. I need to move on, and so should you. After the confrontation, Ifeoma returned to Enugu, determined to rebuild her life on her own terms. She threw herself back into her work, and with time, her heart began to heal. Adaora gave birth to a baby boy, and though their relationship was still strained, Ifeoma made an effort to be a part of her nephew's life. Slowly, she and Adaora started to rebuild their bond, though it would never be the same as it was before. Ifeoma also began to open herself up to the possibility of new love. She met Chike, a kind and understanding man who respected her need to take things slow. They spent time getting to know each other, then Chike's gentle patience helped Ifeoma learn to trust again. Over time, Ifeoma's heart healed, and she found happiness in the life she had rebuilt. She realized that while the betrayal she had suffered would always be a part of her story, it didn't have to define her. She was stronger, wiser, and more resilient because of it. Years passed, and Ifeoma's life continued to flourish. Her fashion business expanded, and she became well known not just in Enugu but across Nigeria. She also found peace with Adaora and Ojo, who had married and were raising their son together. One day, while visiting Nsaka, Ifeoma stood by the river where she and Adaora had played as children. The water flowed peacefully, a reminder of the passage of time and the healing power of forgiveness. She had come a long way from the broken woman who had collapsed at the altar, and she was proud of the person she had become. As she looked out over the river, Ifeoma felt a deep sense of contentment. Life had taken her on an unexpected journey, but it was a journey that had taught her the true meaning of love, forgiveness, and resilience. In that moment, Ifeoma knew she was ready for whatever the future held. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, but she had emerged stronger, with a heart that was ready to love again, not just others, but herself.